What's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and it's time for another hard rock and heavy metal update. It's been quite a while since I've done one. I was just looking at it's been almost 2 months since I did a vinyl update, or a hard rock and heavy metal vinyl update anyway. So I wanted to do one. Actually, I haven't been buying a lot of albums lately just for money reasons, but I have been listening to a lot of stuff. My inbox is kind of overflowing right now. Just a lot of this goes back to stuff that I bought, during the pre-Christmas sales and whatnot. So, but let's just kind of jump into it. First up, this one I picked up a few months ago. I found a really nice near mint copy and couldn't pass up on it for like $4 or $5. This is Great Gonzos. It's Ted Nugent's Greatest Hits. I actually have this on CD with the extra tracks. I've just never found it on vinyl in good condition, so I was pretty stoked to run across that. It's just his hits. There's nothing real special about this one other than that. The CD actually has some unreleased material and stuff on it, which makes that kind of cool. Next up, this one I ordered a few months ago, about a month ago, and it came in about a week ago. This is one that this has actually been on my want list for about 2 years now. The original pressing of this usually goes for $100+, and Soundmass in Australia decided to do a repress, and this is Scrolls of the Megalith from Mortification. Killer album. I can't remember off the top of my head if this is their second or third album as Mortification, but right around there. It's just an amazing album from beginning to end, and Soundmass did a great job putting this one together. This is on blood red vinyl. The issue that I have with this is they left off one of the songs, which just, it doesn't make sense to me. Some of the Mortification represses do have some songs left off of them, and what those are is basically songs that Steve Rowe didn't write, and either no longer has the rights for or doesn't want to pay for the rights for, from what I understand. That's not the case with this song, so I really don't understand why it was left off of this album. And then the original also came with a 7-inch, which would have been cool to see that as well. But regardless, to get this for $20-something over, $100+, I'm still very happy with this. And I've got the CD with all the rest of that material on it, so. Next up, I showed this CD about 4 months ago, and I said that I had this album, and it's honestly just been sitting on my shelf. I listened to the CD like 10 times when I first got it, and I didn't get the LP until a few months later, about a month later, and by that time I already listened to it a bunch of times and just kind of burned myself out on it. So I pulled this out and I've given it a couple more spins. Still love this album, but this is Genexus, which is the most recent release from Fear Factory. In the background, I don't know if I showed this a few minutes ago, we're listening to the debut album from Fifth Angel. Fifth Angel was just a kick-ass late 80s hard or heavy metal band. This is definitely their best album. This one's full of good songs. You got In the Fallout, Call Out the Warning, Fifth Angel, Wings of Destiny is great, Cry Out to Fools. Just a really good album from beginning to end. This is one I recommend checking out. I didn't like their second album as much, but still had some good stuff on there. Next up is In Ruin from Cauldron. Again, I've had this one for a while. I pre-ordered it, so I got it in January, the day it was released. You got the front cover there, back cover. And Cauldron is a Canadian new wave of British heavy metal, or new wave of traditional heavy metal band. On first listen, I didn't like this album as much as past albums. So if you're thinking about getting this, make sure you give it a couple spins. By the third spin, I was really into it. I liked the B-side right away, but the A-side just didn't hit me right. So I gave it a couple days, gave it another spin, and then spun it again, and now it's pretty heavy on the rotation. I'm really digging this one now. So like I said, if you listen to this the first time, you're not really feeling it, give it another chance, give it another spin. It'll hit you. Next up, sorry, I was just looking at something on here real quick. This is On Stage by Rainbow. This is just an amazing live album. This was recorded in Japan, if I remember correctly. That's what I was looking for to see. No, actually in a number of locations. But this is just, like I said, it's a killer live album. It's got all their early classics on it. If you're a Rainbow fan, this should definitely be in your collection. I was really surprised to find this for what I did. This is, again, one I've been looking for a while. Every time I find this, though, it's completely trashed. And, I mean, this thing's in near mint condition, so I was super happy when I found it. And I found it for under $10, so I couldn't grab that fast enough. Next up's a band I don't see get too much love in the VC, which kind of surprises me. This is a band that definitely had their own brand of heavy metal. They were definitely in the vein of Van Halen, but the stuff that they were putting out, I think it's just, I mean, it's heavier than anything Van Halen put out. And it was better than anything Van Halen was putting out at this period. But this is the Bullet Boys' first album. Self-titled, right? Yeah, this is their self-titled album. I've had this on CD for years. I think I picked up my first copy of this on CD in the early 90s. But I've always really dug this band. And I hear a lot of people say that they don't like them, that they sound too much like Van Halen, that they sound too much like a glam Van Halen. But that's what I really dig about them. And this one's a promo copy. But if you haven't listened to Bullet Boys in a while, give them a spin. They're also one of those bands, they weren't really following the trend at the time. So if you didn't like them back in the late 80s, early 90s, go back and check them out. You may dig them now. A bunch of people have shown this. I've actually talked about this before. Sorry, allergies are really bad here in Atlanta right now. The pollen is all over the place, and it's got my nose itching like crazy. But I've actually had this one for 3 or 4 months, and just keep forgetting to show it. But this is just a killer, just straight up metal band. This is Witch Cross, Axe to Grind. It's on blue vinyl. I recommend grabbing this one. I want to say that this is, yeah, Hell's High Roller released this one. They have this one, I think, for $6.66 on Hell's High Roller. Highly recommend picking this one up. This is just really killer metal. Definitely, if you're into the just straight up traditional heavy metal, any of the new wave of traditional heavy metal stuff, you're definitely going to dig this album. Next up, this is part of a 2-album deal that I ran across on Facebook, one of the Facebook auctions. I ended up picking up this and one other sealed album for like $26, and the other one was like the other album's like a $25 album by itself. So this is Never Say Die from Black Sabbath. I actually love this album. It's not my favorite. It's probably, you know, probably 5 or 6, just in the Ozzy era albums. But still, there's some definitely some classic tracks on here. I've always loved the artwork to this. This is the 2012 or 2013 Rhino remaster. Again, if you watched my Black Sabbath video from a few weeks ago, I've talked about how good these 2011, 12, and 13 Black Sabbath remaster sound. They were recorded from the analog sources, And whoever mastered them just did an amazing job. I actually have a promo copy, a first U.S. pressing, a promo copy of this, but it's not in the best condition, so it's nice to have a nice mint pressing to listen to. Next up, new wave of traditional... Oh man, I'm going to do it this whole video. Yeah, new wave of traditional heavy metal band, Stallion. Again, this is one I've had for 4 or 5 months. I've actually given this a bunch of spins. Stallion is just a kick-ass band. They've been around for a few years now. I want to say 2011 is when they came out. I still need to get their newest album. That's the only one I'm missing. But this is their... they call this one an EP. I guess so. I mean, it's 6 songs. Great album, though. If you're into the new wave of traditional heavy metal and you don't have the Stallion albums, I go get them. You're missing out. Next up, I've had this for months. I don't know why I haven't shown it before. Now, it's been in the rotation this whole time, but this is Pathologic Ocular Dissonance from Tourniquet. This was their, I believe, 3rd album. The only way to get this album was through Pledge Music, either Pledge Music or Kickstarter. I can't remember which one. But Ted Kirkpatrick really blew it away with this one. It came with this signed center label, which I thought was really cool. But the vinyl on here is awesome, and it sounds amazing. So, see if you can see that. If you see those specks on the inside, those are actually pieces of label that's been... the basic effect is that the label just exploded and pieces went everywhere. And I actually thought when I got this that it was a pressing error. Until I saw somebody else talk about this and talk about the process to do this. But just very cool. And another cool thing, this pressing with the blown out labels, this special edition, was limited to 100. This one didn't really have the... On one side you don't really see the labels at all, and then on the other side they're everywhere. But just really cool looking vinyl. Like I said, it's a limited pressing of 100 with the blown out labels, this special edition. And it's numbered by Ted Kirkpatrick. But the cool thing is every single pressing is different. The color varies from album to album. So if you got any of those 100, they're different than what anybody else got. And mine is number, I don't know if you can see that, 16 of 100, which I thought was cool too. But Ted Kirkpatrick and Tourniquet just did a killer job on this. I hope they keep going, man. They're doing such a good job reissuing their vinyl. Like I said, this is the 3rd one that they've done. I hope they keep going. They've got a few more classics that I would love. I would love to have all their albums on vinyl, to be perfectly honest. Even the last one, which I wasn't a big fan of, I would love to have on vinyl. But there you go, Tourniquet. Next up, this was probably one of the more controversial albums of the 90s, and this one really started a firestorm with a lot of people. This is also, this is actually a first pressing on vinyl. This was never released on vinyl back in the 90s. But Soundmass just did a killer job. Soundmass from Australia. This is Helig Usuart from black metal band Horde. And this was a one-man black metal project before one-man black metal projects were really that popular. Now they're pretty common. There's quite a few really famous one-member projects, but this was actually... the name was listed as anonymous, but it later came out that it was the drummer for Mortification. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But this is really the first Christian black metal album. Really good, just traditional black metal. And the controversy behind this was when I'm 90%. I believe it was Nuclear. It was either Nuclear Blast or Century Media. I believe it was Nuclear Blast though. But when they released it, the black community or the black metal community was up in arms when they found out that this was a Christian black metal, and it was a real firestorm of nasty letters and messages and all that stuff. They took a lot of heat for this, but they didn't back down. If you like black metal, if you like Christian metal, you're gonna love this album. Anonymous just does a really good job on it. Next up, new wave of British heavy metal, Goldsmith, Life is Killing Me. This is a High Roller release from a couple years ago, I think. When was this? No, they released this one last year. But this one came on some cool, kind of hard to see there, but that's gold vinyl. I have to give this one another spin. It was good. It didn't hit me as great, though. It just sounded kind of pedestrian to me when I listened to it the first time. So, it was cheap. I think I paid like $9.99 for it, or $8.99, something like that, from Hell's High Rollers. And again, this one sat there for months, but sat on my shelf there for months. But like I said, it just didn't really hit me right away. And usually, new wave of British heavy metal is not something I have to be in the mood for. I always really dig it. But like I said, I'll give it another spin or two and see if I get more out of it. But yeah, like I said, it just seemed kind of pedestrian. Nothing super special like a lot of the other stuff that they're releasing from that era. Next up, let's see, we'll save those three for last, is the third album from Icon. This is Right Between the Eyes. And this one is a gold stamp promo. I really dig everything that Icon released. I really want to get their last two albums, their fourth and fifth. They're really hard to find, but I've heard that they're both great. So, but Icon is just killer 80s metal. What more can you say? This was 89, but there you go. This was on Megaforce. Next up, just an absolute American metal classic, American power metal, I guess. Metal Church. This is a band that I've loved since the first time I heard them. I heard them for the first time, and I want to say 1990 or 91. 91's when this album first came out, but it was actually the album that I heard before this, from 89, that I heard first. And I was just absolutely blown away. And this is the Human Factor. And this is the one of the recent Music on Vinyl releases. And Music on Vinyl has just been blowing it out of the park lately. Everything I've been getting from them has just sounded absolutely amazing. I think they're really becoming a good audiophile pressing company. All of their stuff sounds beautiful, and they're putting out stuff that's really hard to find that nobody else is pressing. They've released a lot of stuff like Metal Church. They've done the White Zombie albums. They've done they've done most of the Prong albums now. They've done what's the new one? They're about to do a couple of the Megadeths from the early 2000s that are hard to find on vinyl. So, and you'll definitely be seeing those when they're released. But they're just blowing that out of the park. The sound quality is absolutely top notch. The pressing is absolutely top notch, and I can't recommend any of their releases enough. But Metal Church of Human Factor. Absolute American metal classic. Next up, this was one of my favorite albums, and it was released in '96, I believe. Yeah, but this was one of my favorite albums in '97. I actually bought this in '96 right before I went to boot camp, and listened to it 5 or 6 times and really dug it. But then when I got out of boot camp and went to my first school, this is one of the main things I was listening to. I was listening to this and Anima from Tool, nonstop. These were the 2 albums that you couldn't get out of my CD player at the time. I listened to them at the gym. There was this spot. I was in Whidbey Island, Washington, which is right off I was on the ocean side of it. And I would sit on the beach. There was a little table right behind the base library on the beach where I would just sit and stare out into the water, and listen to this album. But this is Rude Awakening from Prong. If you're not familiar with Prong definitely had their own sound. You've most likely heard Snap Your Finger, Snap Your Neck, or Cut Rate. Probably their 2 biggest songs off the album before this one. This was a concept album, and man, I mean, they really blew it out of the water with this album. They actually disappeared for a while after this album, but they've come back, and I mean, they're strong as ever. They're still putting out killer albums, but this has always been one of my favorites. Highly recommend checking this one out if you haven't heard it. And if you haven't heard Prong, they took it was like a heavy metal mixed with industrial elements, mixed with some funk elements. I mean, and even that doesn't give it justice. But definitely recommend checking this one out. And that was also one of the Music on Vinyl pressings. And last but not least, I thought that I had shown this. Apparently, I completely forgot to. I've had this for a few months. John and I, SMF Captain Howdy, got together and put in an order for these. But this is KFD Kill Fuck Die from Wasp. This is the only pressing of this that's been done on vinyl. I believe it was done in Japan. I'm not 100% sure on that though. It was done in 3 colors. There were only 250 pressed of each color. And I think this one is called Kill Me is the name of... I think it's called Kill Me is what they call that color. But it's got a little obi on it right here, which is cool. And then it's a red... And you can cut with and you can kind of see some elements. It looks kind of pink, but it is a dark red. You can see a little bit of black, and there's some a little white mixed in there a little bit. But the sound quality is awesome. Again, this one's super hard to find, and I was really happy to add this one to the collection. I think I only need 1 more, maybe 2 more Wasp albums on vinyl that are available. I hope that a company in, I want to say Australia, has been going back and releasing some of their stuff. So hopefully they get to the rest of the collection. But this one was a bit of a departure from the band. The sound's a little bit different on this one, but it's one that I still like. And Chris Holmes on here is just absolutely amazing. But just another killer album from Wasp. They haven't put out one that I don't like. I've loved everything that they've released. But that one was a real nice addition to the collection just because it's impossible to find. But that's it, VC. I'll do another hard rock and heavy metal update pretty soon. I've actually got, I don't know if you can see this shelf right here, is all hard rock and heavy metal stuff that I've already listened to. I just didn't want to put too much into one video. This has already been over 20 minutes. Oh, also, newest additions too. I've shown this one before, but This is the newest Megadeth album. It's kind of hard to see here, but it is signed by the entire band. It's an amazing album. I've talked about it. I'm not going to go into it too much. If you haven't checked it out, buy it. Buy the CD. They've got 3 really cool versions. They've got this version, the regular CD version, and they've also got a 3D version where it's got a little a box that you fold up, slide your iPhone into, and you can watch the videos 3D. And I've heard it's really cool. And then another edition. This is a part of a deal that I made with John, SMF Captain Howdy, which, man, I really appreciate it. And this one is signed by everybody from Motley Crue but Tommy Lee, which is not rare. Tommy Lee's been on this I Don't Sign Stuff kick for the last few years. Even people, I was looking at their tour. I saw their final tour here when it came through. Amazing, amazing show. But even the people that paid for the VIP passes where they got to do the meet and greet with the band and got to get something signed and a signed lithograph and all that stuff, Tommy Lee didn't take part in it. So these people were paying like $1,500 and Tommy wasn't part of it, which there may be some plus or minuses, but from collectability standpoint, you want that Tommy Lee signature. But I was really happy to make that deal with SMF Captain Howdy. I love having that in the collection. So thanks, John. And thanks to you guys in the VC. I've gotten quite a few submissions or subscriptions lately, so I thank you guys for those. I think I'm at like 530 or 540, something like that now. But that's pretty much it, VC. I hope you guys have a great week. Take care.